The first thing you need to know about ancient Egypt in the 1st century BCE, it's not what you think. The pyramids are already ancient, the golden age of Egypt, long gone, and you're not even Egyptian. You're Cleopatra and Philippa, born in 69 BCE, and your family. They're a bunch of Greek-speaking Macedonians who've been ruling Egypt since Alexander the Great died, almost 300 years earlier. You're born into the Ptolemaic dynasty, a family known for incest, assassination, and absolutely insane palace drama. Imagine being born into a soap opera, but instead of emotional manipulation, the episodes end in poisonings and public executions. And now, you're the newest contestant. You're the daughter of Ptolemy XII, also known by the charming nickname Auletes, the flute player, a weak, spineless man who would rather party than rule. Your father is deeply unpopular, spends wildly, raises taxes, and most importantly sells out Egypt's independence to Rome in exchange for keeping his throne. Rome doesn't respect him. Egyptians don't respect him. Your own family wants him gone. But you're different. From the time you're a child, you're watching everything, learning, waiting. While your siblings are squabbling over money and influence, you're learning to speak Egyptian, a rare feat among the Greek-obsessed royals. You're studying medicine, math, astronomy, philosophy, and rhetoric. By your teenage years, you're fluent in 7 languages. You're smarter than everyone around you, and you already know the truth. To survive in this family, you have to be brutal, you have to be ruthless, and you'll probably have to kill people you're related to. When you're 14, your father gets exiled. A palace coup forces him to flee Egypt. He runs crying to Rome, begging for their help. And you're left behind in a crumbling kingdom, surrounded by enemies. For 3 years, Egypt is ruled by your older sister Berenice, who has no intention of ever letting your father return. But Rome, of course, loves a good pawn. They help restore your father to power. And when he returns, he has Berenice executed, publicly, while you watch. Lesson #1 of being Cleopatra. There's no such thing as family. There's only the throne. And anyone who touches it without your permission dies. When your father dies in 51 BCE, you are 18 years old, and suddenly, you're queen. But surprise, you don't get to rule alone. You're forced to marry your 10-year-old brother, Ptolemy XIII. Yes, that's right. You marry your child brother, because the Ptolemies keep power in the family by keeping it in the family. And that's not the worst part. Within a year, you're pushed out of power. Your advisors, especially a powerful eunuch named Pothinus, convince your kid brother that you're a threat. They exile you from your own palace, from your own kingdom. You flee to Syria, humiliated, alone, and furious. But you don't cry. You don't collapse. You do what a Ptolemy always does. You plot your return, and you prepare for war. You raise a private army. You gather allies. You sharpen your knives, literally and politically. But there's one variable you didn't plan for. Rome is coming. Specifically, Julius Caesar, the man who just crossed the Rubicon, the man who started a civil war against the Roman Senate, the man who's about to become the most powerful man in the known world. And as fate would have it, Caesar sails to Alexandria with just a few thousand troops, right in the middle of your civil war, your kid brother and his advisors. They see Caesar as a threat. But you see an opportunity. And now you're about to pull off one of the most legendary power moves in history. You're about to make sure that Rome saves you, and in the process, you'll entangle yourself with a man who can destroy empires. But first, you have to get into the palace. And how do you do that? You wrap yourself in a rug and have yourself delivered to Caesar's private chambers. No one sees you coming. Not your brother, not the Roman guards, not even Caesar. And when that rug unrolls, there you are, dressed to kill, charming, brilliant, deadly. And from that moment on, you own him. You've just pulled off one of the most legendary political entrances in history, rolled up in a rug, unfurled at Caesar's feet, unarmed, radiant, and completely in control. And now, you're not just Cleopatra, exiled Queen of Egypt. You are the most interesting woman in Caesar's world. The man who just overthrew the Roman Republic doesn't just see you as a curiosity. He sees you as an equal. You speak his language. You understand politics. And more importantly, you're playing the same game he is. Power, legacy, empire. The morning after that rug unfurls, Egypt is already shifting beneath your feet. Caesar decides to back you. Why? Because you offer him more than just a warm bed. You offer legitimacy. He knows Rome needs Egypt. Egypt is rich, fertile, ancient, powerful. The grain from your Nile feeds half of Italy. Control Egypt, and Rome controls its food. And you control Egypt. Or at least, you will. But your brother, he's not going down without a fight. When word spreads that Caesar has backed your claim to the throne, Ptolemy XIII completely loses it. He and his advisors gather an army. Thousands of soldiers, war elephants, Greek mercenaries. They lay siege to Alexandria itself. Now you and Caesar are trapped in the palace, surrounded, outnumbered, running low on food and water. You start burning scrolls from the Library of Alexandria just to stay warm. Yes, the Library of Alexandria. Your civil war becomes so chaotic, so destructive, that some historians blame it for the loss of irreplaceable ancient knowledge. Congratulations. Your family feud just helped burn one of the greatest libraries in human history. But that's not your concern. Not right now. You're playing for higher stakes. And when Caesar's reinforcements finally arrive, Roman legions from Syria, the siege breaks. The city descends into chaos. Your brother, he tries to flee, and in his panic, he drowns in the Nile. Just like that. Your co-ruler, your kid brother, your husband, dead. You win. You're Queen of Egypt. But Rome doesn't like sole rulers, so to keep up appearances, you name your younger brother Ptolemy XIV as your new co-ruler. Another brother, another royal puppet, another loose end you'll probably have to deal with later. But for now, you celebrate. And by celebrate, I mean you and Caesar sail up the Nile for 2 months on a royal barge, living like gods. Imagine it. You, Cleopatra, in full Egyptian regalia, treated as the living goddess Isis. Caesar treated like Osiris, the god-king. Your barge, a floating palace, perfumed sails, gold-covered oars, musicians, servants, feasts every night. And beneath the surface of this lavish fantasy, you are securing your throne, making yourself untouchable, and it works. Because by the end of this river voyage, you're pregnant. You will give Caesar a child. Caesarion, the son of Julius Caesar. This isn't just a baby. This is a statement, a legacy, a new god-king who might one day rule both Egypt and Rome. That is, if he survives what's coming. Because while you're floating down the Nile with your divine boyfriend, Rome is boiling. Caesar has made himself dictator for life. The Senate, they're furious. The people, divided. His enemies, sharpening their knives. They whisper that Caesar has gone too far, that he's no longer a Roman, he's becoming a king. And what's the proof? You, the foreign queen. The seductive Eastern ruler, controlling Caesar from the shadows. Rome blames you. They call you a siren, a witch, a manipulative temptress. Some even say you're planning to move the capital of Rome to Alexandria. And on March 15th, 44 BCE, while Caesar walks into the Senate, they kill him, stabbed 23 times. Just like that, the most powerful man in the world is dead, and everything you built with him crumbles. You're in Rome when it happens, with your child, Caesar, and the second the blood dries on Caesar's toga, you are no longer welcome. Rome turns on you. They see Caesarion not as a child, but as a threat, a rival to the Roman throne, a living symbol of everything they hated about Caesar. So you do the only thing you can. You run. You flee back to Alexandria, back to your palace, back to your throne. And once again you're alone, widowed, surrounded by enemies. But you've done this before, and if history has taught us anything, Cleopatra never dies quietly. You return to Egypt with Caesarion in your arms, the throne beneath your feet, and a kingdom full of tension, whispers, and bleeding edges. You are now the widow of Julius Caesar, mother to his only biological son, and the reigning queen of Egypt. But the world doesn't care. Rome doesn't care. Caesar is dead, and that means your protection is gone. Worse, a new war is brewing. Rome is about to erupt again into civil war, because when Caesar died, he left behind no official heir. Well, not exactly. He left you and your son. But in his will, he left his name, his fortune, and his political legacy to Gaius Octavius, some 18-year-old rich kid from Italy, barely known, barely tested, a boy. But this boy takes Caesar's name and becomes Octavian, and he's not just ambitious, he's relentless. He wants power, all of it. And now, you and your son stand in his way. You know Rome will never allow two Caesars. Either Octavian wins, or your son dies. So once again, you start playing the long game. You watch, you wait, and Rome falls apart again. Octavian forms an alliance with Mark Antony, Caesar's former best friend, and together they hunt down and kill Caesar's assassins. Brutus and Cassius, dead. The Senate, declawed. The Republic, officially gone. But once Caesar's killers are gone, so is the alliance. Octavian and Antony begin to turn on each other. And you pick a side, not because you trust Mark Antony, not because you love him, but because he's the only one who might protect you. He controls the eastern provinces. He controls Roman legions. He controls your survival. And you control something he wants, Egypt's wealth. And maybe, just maybe you. Again. You arrange a meeting. Tarsus, 41 BCE. He's expecting a political negotiation. You give him a theatrical resurrection. You arrive on a gold-plated barge, dressed as Aphrodite, goddess of love. Your sails are perfumed. Your oars are silver. Musicians play. Incense burns. The Nile shines beneath you. You don't walk into his life. You descend like a myth. And Antony, he falls. He doesn't just fall for your performance. He falls for your power, for your intelligence, for the fact that you aren't like every Roman woman he's ever met. You're bold, unapologetic, and dangerous. Exactly the kind of partner he needs. Exactly the kind of partner who could help him become Caesar's true successor. You return to Alexandria together, and for a moment, just a moment, you are gods again. You have wealth, you have protection, you have twins, a son and a daughter, with Antony, and for almost a decade, you rule together, not just Egypt, but parts of Syria, Judea, and Asia Minor. You raise armies, you mint coins, you give your children royal titles, you begin rebuilding an Eastern empire. You and Antony, you don't just rule, you dream of a world where Rome no longer dominates everything, of a world where you define the future. But Rome doesn't dream. Rome plots, and in the West, Octavian is waiting. He begins a relentless campaign to destroy you both. He tells the Roman people that Antony has lost his Roman soul, that he's given everything to an Egyptian queen, that he's planning to move the Roman capital to Alexandria. And when Antony divorces his Roman wife, Octavian's sister, and publicly names Caesar as Julius Caesar's true heir, that's it. Octavian declares war, but not on Antony, on you. Rome won't stomach another civil war. So Octavian spins the narrative. This isn't Rome versus Rome, it's Rome versus Egypt. It's the pure Roman Republic versus the seductive, dangerous Eastern witch queen. It's propaganda. It's a lie. But it works. The war begins. And this time, you're not dealing with Caesar. You're not dealing with the Senate. You're dealing with a man who has no weakness, no hesitation, no mercy. You're dealing with Octavian. And this war, it's going to end everything. So far you've watched Julius Caesar fall, fled Rome with your son, survived another Roman civil war, seduced Mark Antony to protect your throne, given birth to royal heirs of your own, and now you've been declared the enemy of the Roman Empire. And this time, the enemy isn't confused. He's not emotionally attached. He's not distracted by power plays or love. He's focused. He's cold. And he's coming for everything. The year is 31 BCE, and the world is collapsing beneath your feet. You've survived 2 Roman civil wars. You've ruled Egypt through seduction, strategy, and sheer will. You've birthed not just heirs, but symbols. Symbols of power, of dynasty, of a future that terrifies Rome. But now, everything is coming to a head. Octavian is no longer playing politics. He has declared you the archenemy of Rome, and he is bringing an army unlike anything Egypt has ever seen. You and Mark Antony retreat to your stronghold in the east. You rally ships, troops, gold. You command the eastern half of the Roman world. But you know, this is not just a war of soldiers and swords. This is a war of legacies, and only one name will survive it. Your navies meet off the coast of Actium in western Greece. On one side you and Mark Antony, Egyptian ships, Eastern allies, 90,000 infantry, 500 ships. On the other side Octavian, and a general you should have feared more than all of Rome combined, Marcus Agrippa. Agrippa is not a romantic, he is not a philosopher. He is not distracted by politics or women or grand dreams. He is a weapon, and he's about to crush you. The Battle of Actium is a disaster. It starts with confusion, wind, fire, chaos. Your ships, massive and powerful, are built for ramming, but Agrippa's ships are lighter, faster, smarter. Antony tries to hold the line. He tries to push forward, but his fleet begins to collapse from within. And then you make a decision. You take your fleet and flee. You break formation and sail away from the battle. Why? Historians argue. Was it prearranged with Antony? Was it fear? Was it strategy? Only you know. But what matters is that Antony sees you leaving, and he follows. He abandons the fleet, abandons the soldiers, abandons the war for you, and with that, the East is lost. The war is over. You return to Alexandria in silence. You are still queen, still divine, still worshipped. But in your heart, you know it's finished. Rome is coming. Octavian will arrive within months, and this time, no clever rug trick will save you. You are out of moves. But you're not out of pride. You prepare for the end like a pharaoh. You fortify Alexandria. You send away your children, your youngest, to be hidden or protected. You visit your tomb, which you have built in advance. Not just a place to be buried, a message, an altar to your life, a statement of power in death, if not in life. You are preparing not to survive, but to choose how you fall. Antony, meanwhile, is unraveling. He cannot handle defeat. He hears a false rumor that you are dead, and in a final act of loyalty, or madness, or pure love, he stabs himself, a botched suicide. As he bleeds out, someone tells him, "No, wait, Cleopatra lives." Too late. He begs to be brought to you, and in a tragic, bloody haze, they carry his dying body to your mausoleum. He dies in your arms, broken, and now you are truly alone. Octavian enters Alexandria, not as a general, but as a god. He takes the city with barely a fight. He orders you brought to him, not in chains. Not yet. He still has a political problem. Because if he kills you, you become a martyr. If he parades you through Rome in chains, he risks turning you into a symbol. But if you cooperate, if you allow him to adopt Caesarion, to control your children, maybe he lets you live. Maybe, but you know better. You know what happens to queens who lose. You've seen the cages, the jeering crowds. You know how Rome treats those it conquers, and so you make your final choice. You lock yourself in your tomb. You dress in full royal regalia. You adorn yourself in gold. You lay upon your deathbed like a goddess preparing for rebirth. And then you die. No one knows how. Some say you used a poison hidden in a comb. Others say you had a snake smuggled in, a cobra, the sacred uraeus of Egyptian royalty, a bite on the arm, or the breast. Swift, deliberate. What matters is that you died on your own terms. Octavian arrives too late. He finds your body and is furious. He wanted you alive. But now, he buries you beside Antony. He spares your children, at first and season, your son by Julius Caesar. Octavian has him hunted down and executed, because Rome cannot have two Caesars. So far you've taken the throne in a blood-soaked palace coup, seduced Julius Caesar, then outlived him, fled Rome with his child in your arms, rebuilt your power through Mark Antony, faced the wrath of Octavian, lost everything in a single naval battle, and chosen death before surrender. But your story isn't over, because what happens to your legacy is even more twisted than your life. You're gone now. Queen, goddess, Pharaoh, dead by your own hand, laid to rest in a golden tomb beside the man who chose love over victory. But death doesn't mean peace, not for someone like you, because now comes the second death, the one Rome has perfected, the erasure of identity. Octavian, soon to be called Augustus, doesn't just defeat his enemies, he rewrites them. Your children are taken. The daughter you bore with Antony, Cleopatra Selene, is spared. She's paraded through Rome chained and humiliated, a living trophy in Octavian's victory celebration. But your son, Caesarion, the living proof that Julius Caesar fathered a child with a foreign queen, the one boy who could threaten Octavian's claim to the throne, he's hunted down, dragged from hiding, and quietly, without trial, he is executed. Strangled, they say, at 17. Because, as Octavian famously puts it, too many Caesars is not a good thing. That was your son, the last pharaoh, the final descendant of 300 years of Ptolemies, dead in a ditch, so that Rome could sleep easier. And your name, your story, it's no longer yours. Octavian turns you into a cautionary tale. You become the Eastern witch, the manipulative seductress, the foreign threat who corrupted Rome's noblest sons. Not a queen, not a scholar, not a strategist, just a woman, too powerful, too smart, too dangerous. Rome rewrites you into a villain. Plays are written mocking your lust. Poets reduce you to curves and poison. Historians call you hysterical. And the worst part, that version sticks. For centuries, even Shakespeare, writing 1,600 years later, paints you as a tragic romantic, not a ruler. Your mind, forgotten, your diplomacy ignored, your languages, your medical knowledge, your political genius buried deeper than your tomb. Speaking of your tomb, it's never found. Archaeologists have been searching for it for 2,000 years. The place where Egypt's last queen rests, still hidden. Maybe it was looted. Maybe it crumbled. Maybe in some poetic twist, the gods kept it secret. What we know is this. You were the last pharaoh, the last in a 3000-year line of rulers. And after you, Egypt was never free again. Rome turned it into a province, a client state, a grain depot. Your temples became ruins, your palaces forgotten, your gods erased. And yet, you are still remembered. Yes, your name was twisted. Yes, Rome tried to reduce you to a footnote, but they couldn't erase the truth forever. Modern historians have begun to recover you, your intelligence, your power, your impossibly sharp political instincts. You ruled alone in a world of men, outmaneuvering generals, seducing emperors, protecting your people, until the very last breath. So, what's the verdict? Would you trade places with Cleopatra? Would you endure exile, civil war, incestuous marriage, betrayal, the death of your lovers, and the slow, creeping annihilation of everything you built? Would you be queen, knowing it meant dying alone, your empire carved up by the same people who once begged for your alliance? Would you build legacy from ashes, knowing it would take 2,000 years to rise again? It absolutely sucked to be Cleopatra, and yet there is no statue of Octavian in the streets of modern Cairo, but Cleopatra. She is still a queen, maybe not in marble, but in memory, in myth, in defiance.